So this is the Wellington chapter of the Entrepreneurs Institute, which is wonderful. And I have been involved in the Entrepreneurs Institute since about 2.5 years ago. I went to Auckland for a conference that I knew nothing about. Somebody gave me a ticket and they said it was one of those best things that they'd ever done, and I took off to it, not having the foggiest idea what I was going to, and completely freaking out when the night before I got there, realised that it was from entrepreneurs. And I thought, I'm not an entrepreneur, what am I doing at this thing? Why have I paid all this money to go to Auckland, to go to this conference, to get the accommodation and the flights and all of the rest of it for this event for entrepreneurs? What on earth am I doing? But anyway, having got there, I realised that actually it was the most amazing conference that I had been to since I had started in business, and I learnt so much. And so it's been an amazing movement to be part of for the last 2.5 years. And one of the things that I've really loved about being part of it is the meeting with other entrepreneurs of a huge range of different ages and people right around the world. And so being able to talk with them about what they're doing and why they're doing it and all of that sort of stuff. So when I had the opportunity to become city leader for Wellington, I thought, yep, I'm going to do that. And this was pre-COVID, of course. This was the beginning of the year. And so we started in March with our face-to-face meetings, and then lockdown happened. So we've been doing Zoom calls since then, and I'm looking forward at some stage to be able to be doing some in-person events, but also continuing an online thing once a month. So here we go. It's been a real privilege to have all of the different speakers that we've had, and tonight I am delighted to say that we've got Diana Tapp. The other thing that we're doing is, because we're about Wellington Impact Entrepreneurs, what we like to do is to be able to show that we're making an impact. And so every event that we do, we choose an organisation, a cause to support. And so tonight's cause that we're supporting is the business training programs for women, establishing businesses, and it's in Zambia. So giving them a micro loan. They don't need very much at all to be able to start a business, and then that helps them to be able to get out of that cycle of poverty, and also helping feed their families, which is a really good thing. So Diana Tapp, I've known for how long, Di? About 30 years or something, I think. We might not talk about that, but it is that sort of length of time. And I met Di at Nino College, and we taught together a little bit there, and then she moved off to Australia. So she's been in Australia for the last, what would it be now, 20-something years, just over 20 years, isn't it? And over there, you've been able to create an amazing business called World Class Teams, and it's been neat to watch that growth and development of what you've done over there. And tonight, you're wanting to talk about the accidental entrepreneur. I think there's quite a lot of similarities between us in many ways. It's just like I'm a few years behind you and we're doing very similar things. So I'd love to hear your journey tonight about how you became an accidental entrepreneur. And also through the evening, we have the opportunity to be able to ask questions. So there'll be Di's got a presentation that she will tell her story through, and then there's the opportunity for that Q&A, so that you can really ask the questions that are relevant for you right now, as we go through. So I'm going to hand it over to Di. I know she's going to share a screen, so she'll be able to do that right now, and over to you.
Beautiful. So I'm going to start just speaking with you all, because it always seems a nice way to start, and to say thank you, Kathy. And now I know completely. We laughed when we talked about what's the title, and then I'm listening to Kathy going, there we go, two accidental entrepreneurs. And absolutely, that's true. So the way I thought I would divide this up today is in 3 little parts. One, a little bit about my story, just so that it creates some context around the questions that you might want to ask. Secondly, there are many lessons that you learn in this journey of being an entrepreneur or a business owner, whatever we want to call it, right? Life, actually, we learn a whole lot of lessons. And so I've chosen 3 that I think have been particularly pertinent in terms of setting up the business for me. And then a whole lot of time where we just Q&A all together. And given that we're going to have a small group, I'm thinking that's going to be fabulous, because it can just be that lovely conversation. I'm not at all anticipating that will be you asking questions and me answering. I'm anticipating that will be us all having a discussion together. So I'll share the PowerPoint with you now, and you'll see that first part of the story, as it were. So here I am. Start of the journey, Diana Gillian Everest. It's funny hearing other people call me Diana Tap. Not that the tap part's funny, although it is, but it's more, I only ever was Diana when I was in trouble, until we came to Australia. And that's hugely because when you said your name was Di Tap, people thought it was some sort of place name. Hence Diana some of the time, but still Di most of the time. But here I am as a little child. I labelled it the accidental entrepreneur because I don't come from a business background at all. In fact, both of my parents were teachers. And so there was no business, there was all about education. But in fact, when I look back now, I think the traits that mum and dad have been hugely influential on this journey for me. So for mum is, and some of you know her, mum is the ultimate optimist, which absolutely you need if you're going to have your own business. And secondly, just brilliant at forming relationships. To this day, our girls laugh that you get on the train with Nan and she'll know everyone's life stories before you get off at the first stop. But in a way that is completely makes people feel at ease. So huge influence in my life, and still massively is. And Dad was a very good sportsman, and partially as a result of that, or perhaps because of that, a very competitive man. And while I think for many years I tried to pretend that I wasn't competitive, yes, I'm competitive, mainly with myself. But again, there's that part where there needs to be that drive and that get up and go. So although they didn't come from a business background, I think the traits were massive in there. As a child, as you can see, I'm the taller of the two girls then. I was saying to Kathy, I only was the taller of the two girls until I was about 7. My sister outgrew me at that point, which was a bit difficult when you're the big sister and is little from a young age. But I had my older brother who I just adored, and my big little sister who was always seen as being older than me, and now it's kind of good if she is seen being older than me, but at the time it was obviously hard. As a child then, middle child, that classic peacemaker that you tend to be if you're a middle child, and also incredibly shy. I knew that I was shy. It's not until I have seen mum and dad speak now that I realised I was so shy to the extent that they were pretty concerned. And Dad still laughs to think what I do now. It's like, who would have thought our little shy Di is doing this? So fast forward to the here and now. Oops, it's not doing that. Fast forward to the here and now, and as Kathy said, I founded a business called World Class Teams. And we specialise in doing corporate training programs, leading edge programs that we design ourselves. So you can see me here with various clients. We do keynote speaking. All of our work starts from being group workshops. The coaching, any coaching that we do is off the back of that. But I feel very much that this is me living my purpose and my passion. I believe absolutely that people can change. I don't believe in hardwiring at all. I think it's a poor excuse for saying I'm not prepared to try hard enough to make those changes. So I built the business on that premise that our job is to ensure that people gain both the desire and also the belief to know that they can change. And then our job is to give them the tools and the techniques so that they'll be able to make those changes and fly in their working life. That's been very much the centre of it. But as I'm sure many of you will appreciate, so many of the things that you learn that work in business also work, of course, in personal life as well. So in that wonderful position, of course, COVID, like for all of us, I'm sure has made a massive difference. You can see from these photos that it was completely a face-to-face business. That's everything that we did. Since March, we've become the Zoom queens, or I've become the Zoom queen, if you like. I don't think one of our facilitators would like me to describe them that way, but we certainly are doing so many of our programs via Zoom, and that's meant a total rewrite of everything that we do. But interestingly, after that moment of eek and exhaustion of rewriting has become an excitement that we've now added to the suite. And I'm sure that there'll be many of those kinds of discussions that we'll have tonight about this continual, COVID has really accelerated that change. But even so, entrepreneurs are going to be always looking for the next change, because that's how you need to stay ahead in the game, as it were. What are the new things that we can do? So I think as I've gone through that journey from that little shy guy into the leader of a business, I'm not going to say that I'm not sometimes shy still, but you maybe learn to manage it better as you get older. I think there are two key characteristics that I have had for a long time, though, that have been really instrumental in enabling me to grow the business. And the first one of those is being optimistic. I no doubt got this from my mum, very fortunately did. And it's enabled me really to say yes. So I think there are some pivotal moments in my life where I have said yes, and that has been a really fortunate thing. So one of those is this little geeky girl here. This little geeky girl here is me in Form 3. Truthfully, it should be in Form 2, but I didn't have a photo of that. And in Australia, I don't have to worry because no one knows the year levels, right? But when I was in Form 2, the woman who ran the canteen at our school left, and the principal was unable to find another person to run the school canteen. So unbeknown to me, he checked with mum and dad and asked me if I would run the school canteen. Now, remember, I was this incredibly shy, nerdy little kid, as you can see. Honestly, the only attribute I can imagine that Ken Moody thought I had was that I was pretty good at maths. I can't think of another reason that he would have asked me to do that. But he did, and I said yes. And when I look back now, I go, oh my goodness, as a 12-year-old, I did all the ordering in the canteen. I hired the staff, the kids from in the school. We made that canteen work. And many years later, I was at a reunion and I saw Ken Moody there, the principal at the time, and I said to him, I've always wondered, what on earth did you see? Like, what made you up? Oh, it was obvious as all heck, he said. Now, I'm dead certain it can't have been obvious as all heck, but I'm forever grateful for that opportunity for two reasons. Number one, boy, you're lucky if people see potential in you that you don't see in yourself. Secondly, is that notion that says, just do it. And when I first was setting up the business, I remember being, I guess understandably, a little bit afraid about what I was going to do. I was going to leave working for someone and set up the business myself. And I remember saying to myself, remember you ran the school canteen when you're 12. You can probably do this. So it's that notion of it giving us that impetus to say, yes, you can. Just get up and do it again. So that was one of them. Probably the second, or another, perhaps not the second, but another really certainly pivotal year of my life, you're going to smile again, Kathy, is this year, 1980, when I was an exchange student in Denmark. So I left school, headed straight to Denmark with not a word of Danish. And this is me with my Danish mum and dad, two of the most beautiful people on the planet, along with my actual mum and dad in New Zealand. Interestingly, Mor and Far, as we call them in Danish, were also teachers. So, I mean, goodness me, what luck. And that was an incredible year. If I look back on any single year of my life in terms of impact, this is the one. That whole notion of being 18 and thinking you know everything, and suddenly you're thrown to another country with a completely different culture, needing to learn a language, wanting to learn a language because you knew that was the way to fit in, learning about yourself, learning about other people, seeing relationships form and last. So my Danish parents have now sadly passed away, but I have a sister there, and my little nephew, as he was in 1980, and I'm his godmother, now has 4 children of his own, and I'm godmother to 2 of those children as well. So these kind of layers continue to grow. Tremendous impact on my life, and certainly on the way I work with people, particularly if they have English as a second language. You have a different appreciation when you go into a place as an adult that could speak like a child. So massive. I came back from that year overseas, knowing that I wanted to teach. That had been my dream for as long as I can remember. But I had the opportunity to do research chem, and I'm so glad that I did. I think that excitement of making something that no one had ever made before, and equally the frustration of trying to replicate those results and not being able to for 3 months, whole lot of really good learnings in that space, and I think that set me up for then ultimately that career in teaching, but also having that ability to think beyond what was the norm into creating was critical in that space. So I came out of uni and College of Ed and ended up at my first school with Winnie and Kathy, well, not Kathy at that point, but with Winnie, Nainai College. What a fabulous start. You know, I've been incredibly lucky in my career, and at the time, gosh, I feel so sorry for young people now. At the time when I came out of uni, particularly being a chemistry, science and maths teacher, there were plenty of jobs around. And I remember many people laughing at me for choosing Nainai College. You know, why didn't I go to some other school that had more money? Well, what a joy. It was incredibly innovative. I had the most wonderful mentor as one of my teachers there. Great students. I think that's honestly where I learned the craft that I use now. So it's interesting when you get into corporate training, probably moving into that space, the worst thing on your CV is the fact that you've been a teacher, because people think you know nothing about the real world. When you're training, I can tell you everything about being a teacher is why we're so good at what we do. It's that ability to be able to read people, to innovate. I've got no doubt at all that it's been massive in the reinvention that we've done as a business in the last 6 months. So Nainai was a very, and will always be, a very special place in my heart. And then I got to the point where I was a bit overacting assistant HOD, and I thought it was time to have a promotion for real. Never pictured myself at a girls' school, let alone a private girls' school. But what a joy. That's where the promotion was. And again, the most brilliant principal at Chiltern St James. So that's where I went as head of science and finished my teaching, as it turns out, I had no idea it would be, finished my teaching career at Chiltern St James. The reason that I finished my teaching career was that when we had our first child, I was on maternity leave and got asked to do some work in the corporate world, and thought, ooh, it's actually seeing people change and develop that I love, not necessarily kids. I don't mind what age they are. And that notion of being 1 day a week in a corporate world or 4 days a week for those same 8 hours of work was pretty appealing. So, you know, not only am I an accidental entrepreneur, but to be honest, I accidentally, in some ways, went into corporate training as well. But that optimism has been massive in that space throughout my life. The second characteristic, I think, is this ability to be innovative. And if I think particularly back to Nainai College, that is totally the reason that I chose Nainai as my school. That the science teacher who I was under was really innovative. She was doing, it makes me laugh, I'm not sure if it's happening in New Zealand now, but in Australia they're talking all about doing individual programs now for students. We were doing those in 1985 at Nainai College. But she was the only teacher that I know of who was. So that ability to keep changing and keep looking for new ways to do things was really important. Here we are in Sydney. We came to Sydney for the classic kind of 2 to 4 years with my husband's work. I'm not going to say it turned into, because it didn't turn into. Nev was offered another role after 4 years, and we said if we're going to say yes to that role, we have to not pretend that we are in Australia for a while and going back to New Zealand. Actually, this is making a decision to say we're going to stay. It was a huge decision. Clearly, we made it. I think it's one of those decisions that could have been right either way. And so you just have to make one and make the decision that you've made become the right one. And definitely that's the way I feel about the decision we made to stay here. That, of course, meant, oh my goodness, I don't have work contacts here. It's time to start innovating and look to see what it is that I'm going to do. So interestingly, one of the things I did, which again, never would have thought I was saying yes to training people for TV. This came about completely fortuitously. We were looking to buy a house since we were going to stay, and the real estate agent was asking me what I did. I said, oh, I'm a corporate trainer. Oh, my wife does training. Oh, interesting. What does she train in? TV. Oh, no, I don't do training in TV. Oh, but you could and you should. Anyway, long story short, I ended up training people for TV for some years, never thinking it was anything other than a sort of, oh my gosh, out of my comfort zone again, back to the canteen story, you can do this. But in fact, now with all the video work that we're doing, it's been a godsend. So sometimes the dots get joined when you look back rather than looking forward. But again, that notion of saying, yep, You better just learn how to do this. A few years ago, I wrote a book. I'd always laughed that I was going to write a book when I retired, and it was going to be on language, and I was going to write it on the beach. Clients kept saying, you need to write the book now, Di. You need to write the book now. And so I did. It's one of the, I'm glad that I have. I'm not going to say that I loved every moment of it. It's a huge, if you've done it, you know that it's a huge undertaking, but actually a really good discipline and a really good way of getting some thoughts together, and of giving something that people can take away. In the old days, we used to say, read on the plane, read somewhere, read sitting in a batch now, and gain some skills, but a good way to hone our own skills. And again, say, oh, I don't know if I can be a writer. Well, you know what? You can just sit down and start doing it. And then this photo is actually back from Chiltern St James at a reunion a couple of years ago, and they are a couple of my students from way back, pre-children for us. What a pleasure to see them again. But it's there again because of that innovation that we did at Chiltern at the time in the science department, and has come through so strongly now when we've needed to reinvent and become very much adding that online suite to the company right now in COVID. So I think those are the two characteristics that for me stand out, starting with that purpose and passion. I'm not going to say I knew that at the start, but 100% now, I really believe that this is what I'm on the planet for, is doing what I'm doing now. So what are my 3 lessons? I think the first one is this. My goodness, we don't have a crystal ball. Just say yes. There's so much around this notion that you don't get change unless you leave the harbour. So it's like having the courage, having the guts to go out and say, I'm going to say yes to that. I can't see past the first corner, but let me try. And Steve Jobs, who I admire hugely in this space of going, just back yourself, has this wonderful quote. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. I love it because it says we have lived in our lives, with the exception of this year, being in control of so many things. And the reality is we're not always in control of everything. We're in control for the first block. And as an entrepreneur, that's as much as you need, and that's as much as you'll get. If you want to see right to the end game, you won't do anything, which by definition will mean that you won't be an entrepreneur. You'll be an implementer rather than an innovator in that space. So say yes, even when it's scary. Secondly, and I think I didn't learn this straight away, but it has become critical to me in the last few years in particular, build your tribe. You know, we need a group of people around us who get what it's like to be a business owner, and they're often not our partners, who get what it's like to take a risk, and who will fulfill, I think, 2 very important roles for us. They will support us and lift us up, you know, challenge us to be the best that we can be, see us on that journey and be really supportive of us in that space. And secondly, they will do the reverse. They will ground you and challenge you and focus you. And the picture that I've chosen here is of our tribe, as we even call ourselves that. So this is my group at the CEO Institute. And interestingly, we're known as the entrepreneurial group. I suspect that most of us don't think of ourselves in that way. But when I go and speak to some of the other CEO groups, I go, oh, yes, we are, because we're nearly all business owners. And most of the other CEO groups are CEOs in a company that might be a listed company or is a large company, but they don't own it. They lead it. Wonderful group of people, and we have grown very close, and I can promise you that particularly during COVID, it's been a critical time for all of us. Some businesses have flown, some have really struggled, but we've been there for each other, and I think it's made us even closer as a group. Plus we have a heap of fun, you know, that's perhaps obvious from all the smiles there too. So make sure you've got a tribe, you know, people that you trust and where you trust them enough to be vulnerable. You know, the real benefit of our tribe at the CEO Institute is that we come with our issues. We don't try to hide them and say everything's going great. We go, yeah, this didn't work too well this month. What tips do you have for me? Or I'm struggling with this. That's a key part of it. And beware of burnout. Gosh, I think this has never been truer than this year. But I think it's always true. And in fact, even in the leadership programs that we run, when I started a new program just a few weeks ago, we were talking about leadership styles, and one of the people said to me, "Can you also talk to us, Di, about what do we do to look after ourselves? Because we're talking about how do we look after our teams right now? How do we show empathy? How do we lead them? How do we help them to feel as much comfort as we can during this crazy time? But how do we also look after ourselves?" So we talked about the analogy of, we're the tree. As leaders, we're the tree. And what everybody sees is that beautiful foliage and hopefully some spring flowers coming out too. But they see that top part. That only happens if the roots are strong. So we need that underneath the surface to be as strong as possible. And I think, there's nothing rocket science in this, but it says to me, there are two things that we really need to make sure that we do. And one is water those roots. In other words, we need to make sure that we do relax, that we know what it is that fills our bucket up again. And I don't believe that it takes a lot of time, but I believe that it takes us going, when I relax, what do I do? What do I do that makes me feel relaxed? And knowing absolutely what those things are. So if you were on one of the motorways around Sydney with me on a Friday afternoon, you'll know that what it is singing my lungs out to music that I'm not allowed to play for the rest of my family. So it's in my car and I'm blasting that all the way home and I'm completely relaxed. Equally during COVID, there'll be some laughter in our family going, here she goes with Rod Stewart again, because that's one of the ones. I'll be singing away with that at home as well. It's what do you do that lets you go, whoosh, I'm back in the zone. I feel relaxed. My bucket is filling up again. And I think equally important is fertilizing those roots. So the water is the relaxing, but the fertilizer is that reinvigorating. What lifts us up and gets us ready, because the relaxing is bringing us down, and that's really important. Then the reinvigorators, what lifts us up again, say, right, let's go. What am I saying yes to? What am I going to focus on now? And again, knowing what those things are, knowing something really, and I'm a real believer in little tangible things. So what's that small tangible thing that you do that, when I do that, it reinvigorates me. And one of mine, I can't see my own image right now, which is a very good thing. But one of mine, if you can see can you see my hand, Kathy? Because I can see you. So you can see on my hand 2 rings here, but the little back one is Mum's wedding ring. And my mum is not well now and hasn't been for some time, which is challenging, to put it bluntly, or to put it mildly. But I know that particularly when Mum was really unwell, but it's been very useful this year too, when I think, this is too hard, I'm just over this, I turn Mum's wedding ring around 3 times and I'm back in the zone. And it's that small tangible thing that says it will work. It's just using the power of our mind. We make that happen. I've said to clients, you're going for that job interview, make sure you've got your red undies on, because you can be cheeky when you're my age, right? I don't have any red undies. Well, you better go and get some. Well, this woman went and got the red undies and she got the job. I said, there it is. Make sure you wear those red undies. Any day you need to lift yourself up. But it's having those small tangible things that we do that go, now I'm back in the zone. I think we need to make sure that we have both of those, so that we're not, particularly right now as entrepreneurs, giving, but not actually filling up that tank ourselves at all. And I think I love quotes that make me think. And so the last one before I just come back to you all is this one. People talk about how lucky it is if you have a great life, how lucky it is if you've got a successful business, how lucky. I'm the first to say there is some luck in life. Most definitely there is. But massively, those at the top of the mountain didn't fall there. They're the courageous people who made courageous decisions and backed themselves often when there wasn't too much support around, when people were thinking, that's pretty crazy. It'll be safer to do this. Other people go, you know what? The view from the top of that mountain, let me just see if I can get there. You don't fall there, you climb there. You probably get a few scrapes on the way, but the view at the top is absolutely magnificent. So with that happy note, John would probably be climbing it, wouldn't he? The rest of us will be looking at it. That's as much as I'm going to say to you guys. I'm hoping that that's given you enough information that you are burning with some good questions to ask me and also to share with each other. And I'm delighted that I still have a semi-Kiwi accent, don't I?
Oh, yeah, not too bad actually.
If I'm here, people say, you know, I've still got a New Zealand accent. When I come to New Zealand, yeah, you sound like a bloody Aussie. You know, like you can't really win, really. I know it's some sort of hybrid, and that's probably best put. That's where I think I sit to a little hybrid person.
It's the I sounds that have changed a bit.
Yeah, the deed.
Developing. It's not quite as strong as they are, but you know.
Not a Queenslander, let's just say.
It's still got that leaning. You know, thank you so much, Di, for sharing your story. And I mean, I knew we were so parallel in so many ways. It's just not funny, but you know, there's a couple of extra things there that I hadn't realised. I didn't realise that both of your parents were teachers, for example.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
And we did the exchange student thing in the foreign countries. I knew that, and that's absolutely been a pivotal moment. And I think that's one of the things that has given us the real resilience that we need as business owners. You know, especially this year to go. Actually, you can do this. You absolutely and utterly can. Yeah. So those key things of the saying yes. I'm sure every single person in this room knows that we've had to say yes at various times, and to go through continuing to say yes when we make those challenges, the building the tribe and being aware of burnout, that's just been so key. I love the sense of humour that comes through.
No one ever describes me as being sensible, Kathy. They never have, and I hope they never do, you know.
Way to go. We need a touch of madness. So I think, especially this year, maybe. So Winnie, Lynette, John, have you got any questions? What sort of questions have you got?
Di, I like your comment on get your red undies, because Sandy and I use another one that's very similar, and we say we have to put our big girl pants on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do it. And that's about saying yes, or getting out of your comfort zone, or, doing stuff that challenges us, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And having that tangible either thing that we say or thing that we do.
I think that's important, is saying that stuff.
Like those pants going on, and it's like, here we are.
I think that's I think it just gives you the encouragement to say, okay, put those big girl pants on and go out there. Otherwise, it's too easy to do nothing.
Yeah, totally.
Or ignore it, ignore the challenge.
Totally. Or say, we'll just wait until we know a few more things, if we're not really adopters.
It's easy to be safe.
It is. It is. It is. Lynette, is it travel that Kathy was taking you into? Yeah, so
not so much of it right now.
Hugely challenging. Hugely challenging year, haven't you?
It's not been a fun year.
Yeah. What have you been able to do, Lynette? Because I was saying to Kathy, at least in training, like honestly, I've never done a webinar in my life before March. It's like, oh my goodness, right, well, we're going to need to learn to do this. But for travel, where is that second option right now?
As far as sales go, we've had to pivot, as everybody has, and change to New Zealand domestic product only. But that doesn't sell to New Zealanders. It's not a money spinner for us, because for a start, there's no commission on any flights. There's our industry is, we're paid only on commissions, and there are no commissions on domestic flights. There are no commissions on Australia and Pacific Island flights either. So for as long as that lasts, we have nothing, basically, unless we get some accommodation that goes with it, and we get a tiny bit from that. So it's challenging, because when you've got international travel and you've got European flights and things like that, even the little percentages that the airlines give us do give us enough for each booking for us to be able to carry on. But the domestic market doesn't give us that.
Wow. And is there any sense, Lynette, that will change?
Not in the near future, no.
They're all hurting so much themselves.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of domestic packages, but Kiwis are very DIY. And, they will just jump online and do it themselves. But, that's the way it is. So we're also looking right now at offering end-of-year function opportunities for businesses.
Right.
So we're working on that at the moment, and we're just thinking positively. We've taken a leap of faith and said we will do this, and we're just creating a one-page new website for that product, and just let's see.
Well done, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's one of the scary things about being an entrepreneur or business owner, Lynn, isn't it? But we have to do it. We actually have to say we're doing it before we are doing it. It's like, well, we are having these events, and you think, oh, I hope we are, but we can't ever say we hope we are, because no one will sign up to something that might happen. They will be tempted to sign up to something that is happening.
It's happening, yeah.
We're doing this for all the other corporates, or whoever it might be. And I guess stay linked, as I'm sure you will with Kathy, and feel free to link with me too, Lynette, because I think if it's similar to Australia, and I know we still have to social distance. So we're still on the 4 square meters. It's elbow bump. It's no handshakes, no hugs, any of those kinds of things. But what you can see, and I'm sure this part is the same in New Zealand, is that I think there's never been a tougher time for leaders. They need to have that equal measure of having empathy and also authority with their team, but saying thank you to their staff. And I know I've been speaking to several. They go, we can't do our usual functions, and I'm going, well, what are you going to do instead? Because people have really need it this year more than they've ever needed it before, and just say, oh, we can't go on that cruise anymore. Well, like, what can we do? And I guess New Zealand has a little bit more flexibility about what you can do. So well done on taking those packages, because I think here it's going to be, or certainly my suggestion has been, look for some really cool Christmas hampers, because people will appreciate that and their families will appreciate that as well. But I think that pull at those heartstrings on those corporates, Lynette, of what are you doing for your people to say thank you this year? They need it.
And we work on the basis that the corporate managers are all busy. They've not got time to think about, and they don't know where to find the opportunities that are there. So we're going to just try and bring it to them.
Absolutely.
Hand it on a plate.
Absolutely.
But like you said about being in control, this year the control's gone out the window.
Absolutely.
We've got no control over our business at the moment at all.
And I think that's been when Roger talks about he talks about create your own certainty. Of this chaos, create certainty, and that's exactly what you're both talking about. Is we're going to do this, and by saying you're going to do it, you're creating certainty.
Right.
You really need to know how it's going to work.
It's a little bit scary, to be honest.
Oh,
yes.
Totally.
I say to people at the start, I've never done a webinar before, but the first time I'm doing, I'm thinking, holy dooly, I've never done one of them.
Exactly.
Great. And because you do all these webinars, this is my first one, but I'm not going to tell you that yet. Like now there's certain bit, like for you guys, of course, I'm going to say that, but it's that part of people feed off, shoulders back, they feed off our confidence. If we act like, of course, this is what we're doing. Yep, these are the packages that we have, giving them options, Lynette, so that they're not the one. It's like, choose one of these 3 packs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my choice is now 1 out of the 3. Not, should we do this or not? Oh, maybe not. No, which one of these 3? Oh yes, these have been awesome. We'll give you some feedback, and then happy days. That's great. Well,
just thinking, Lynette, of the New Zealand Made Products Facebook page, and I don't know whether you've seen that at all on Facebook.
No, I don't think so.
It started out by one woman deciding that she wanted to support local products, New Zealand made products, during COVID, and it grew to 500,000 people joined up within weeks around New Zealand, just sharing what they were doing in their own areas. And it's now Choice. It's changed its name. But I think they're now setting up a website because they've had so much response. And one of the big things that I've noticed on there is people who have their own homestays and Airbnbs and travel packages and things. And there seems to have been an incredible response to that. And so that really picked up on that whole, what can we do once we get out of lockdown? People were going in there. So whether you can tap into that at all and, you know, be another way of people accessing that.
Thank you.
There was New Zealand Escapes is another Facebook page that started up as a result of COVID, you know, people that had their really high-end B&Bs, and they've all combined together to say, let's support each other and help each other market this whole thing, because how else, you know, we've got to get the stuff out there because we're not getting the international tourists anymore.
That's right.
So whether you can link in with, you know, groups like that and say we can provide, you know, we've got the mechanisms to provide a wider reach.
Sure.
And they're, you know, they're at the coalface doing it. They often don't have that knowledge of how to get stuff out there like the travel agents do.
Yeah, very true. Great idea.
But, you know, a classic entrepreneurial setup, one woman, and she's running regular webinars telling people about all these different products. There's from people who are doing knitting babies' bonnets to, you know, new, huge new products, just amazing, huge range of stuff.
That's great.
Couldn't keep up. It took them they just had to get so many new staff on just so that they could load all the new products that were coming through that people wanted to share. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, just a fabulous example of entrepreneurship, just starting up on, you know, as a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And that feeds exactly into what Roger talks about. I had the privilege of going to Bali last year, in the middle of last year, and he was talking about what was going to happen in business, or to businesses, and what they would need to do from sort of 2020 and beyond. So it was quite good that I sort of had 8 months warning. I would have to go online and, you know, start creating a community. But that's exactly what that person has done, isn't it? Is to create a community online which fulfills people's needs and draws people to her. And that's what businesses are needing to do, you know, is to be able to create that community online and then go from there.
Yeah.
But even the products, in a way, it's meeting needs.
People that have set up online travel by, you know, let's take you to Scotland for the summer, and, you know, let's do a virtual tour. And it's amazing how many of my friends have joined up with these things, and they're doing virtual tours because there's no way we're going to get to Scotland for a while. You know, brilliant.
What about you, Winnie? What challenges has this year brought to you?
Very similar to Di in the sense of our training. The celebrant training had to go all online. So I was all set to do face-to-face in Christchurch the weekend we went into lockdown. So that just disappeared. So I spent all of lockdown rewriting all our courses, huge, and developing new stuff that people would want to access online. So we're still online. We haven't gone back to face-to-face, and I really miss that. I really miss the face-to-face because that's where I get my buzz. Yeah. Funerals and weddings have come back, you know, back to pretty much normal. Well, we are back to normal now with level 1 across the country. So we're back into that. But the training side of it was just like huge. So I was busier than ever during lockdown, and people were saying, oh, I'm loving lockdown, being able to put my feet up and not go to work. And I was thinking, I'm having to share my workspace with my husband who's now at home, and, you know, and I was working 7 days a week. So for me, that whole comment about burnout was so important, Di, because it was so easy because work was here with the laptop in the house all the time. You have to somehow step out of that and say, no, I actually, and because a lot of my work is weekend work anyway, it's how I make sure I have a weekend during the week. and just, and give myself permission to relax and reinvigorate. And so it's been a strange year in that sense. I've been busier than ever.
Because it's a total rewrite, Winnie. You're right, isn't it? People say, every activity that you do has to be different when it's on what it is face to face. And I hear you. I can't tell you last week, because we're only doing a limited amount that's back face to face now, right? And so I've done a whole diploma group. They signed up for face to face in March. Bang, the whole thing's been online. So we had our first session actually face to face last week. Oh my God, I was so excited. I was so excited, as were they, but I was like, like a little pig in mud. And just how easy, how joyous, but also how easy it is when you can see everyone rather than having the little boxes like we are now, where you don't have the same vibe. I think it's great that we've learned we can. And I think you've just raised, maybe too for you, Lynette, as well, that notion of, okay, so let's do some of these virtual tours that, we all go, that's not the same as being there. Yeah, well, we don't have the option to be there. It was the same for us when we said, we're not going to survive, we're going to reinvent. It's like, I'm not for a single moment going to say that doing an online live stream is as good as being face-to-face, but I 100% put my hand up and say, I think we've got one of the best live stream programs anywhere. It's a great silver medal. The gold medal is still face-to-face, but when we don't have the gold medal option, then it's like, take the silver. And I think maybe, Winnie, you've also raised a really good idea for Lynette of like, do some of these virtual tours. Like, why not? I can't be there.
What I found with our students was that those who were first-time students didn't know what we used to do face-to-face. So they thought, this is great. This is amazing. Gosh, you do wonderful programs. And I was thinking, you don't know what we usually do. But, okay, cool. That's great. And they were happy that, we'll do another one of those. Okay, we'll provide that. So, we're having to do, as you say, silver, but at least we've got silver to do,
I think that that's one of the things we're just starting, like just this week, starting to get a tiny little bit of face-to-face stuff back in the business space that we work in. I have two sides of the business. One is with teachers, with the Ministry of Education, and so that had a big pause, but we then were able to get straight back into it. The business side of it, there has been nothing. Absolutely and utterly nothing. Nobody's been able to talk about it. Nobody's been interested. And so I'm really glad that we have created a whole lot of stuff to be able to go with. And that is that silver medal, right? But the opportunities that actually come out of that are pretty amazing, because what it does mean is that we have the opportunity to go actually global and have customers, clients that are anywhere. And to also make our tribe bigger. So, the people where we can get support from can be anywhere around the world. So, I really like the new ideas that I've been able to start with this year, like creating an online school. And I'm going to be running a big 3-day event in January for teachers and for youth. Now, there's absolutely and utterly no way that I would have done that or even thought about doing it until this year. I still don't know exactly how it's going to work, but it's going to work, and it's going to be amazing. So, but we can't. I think that there are still a lot of people that are waiting to be able to go back.
Yes,
I don't think that we will actually ever have the opportunity to go back. And so we need to be able to create this silver medal and make it into an amazing new shiny gold medal. Anything that we still get in the old space is like cream on the top. That shiny silver medal that we're going to gold plate it and it's going to become real gold. So I don't know what it'll look like for you, Lynette, but hang in there, because something will come through.
I think what you talked about, Di, and you, Kathy, as well, the building your tribe. Without our tribe, as in your BNI and the rest of the tribe that we have amongst us, we probably wouldn't have survived. And a lot haven't. But that's really important, to have your support network around you. And know that, and just have the confidence to keep at it, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And knowing that they'll also give you the brutal facts, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I had a person in my team, Lynette, last year and got to the point where I was thinking, they're really not performing as they should, but I wanted to, the optimist, I'll keep believing. And my tribe said to me, she needs to go, like straight out like that. And I was giving all of these reasons. And then the next month when we met, I said, well, you're right. And I've given these options. And honestly, we still laugh about it. They go, thank goodness you did that. And truthfully, when I think about COVID, I think, well, thank goodness, because that would have been a salary that would have been really,
that's right,
really difficult to manage right now. So but
right. Sometimes your tribe can see from the outside more than you can see from the inside, can't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the beauty, isn't it, is that we each help each other in that space. Equally, you will look out at our business, Lynette, and go, you need to do this. And I go, Lynette, here's an idea.
Yeah.
But it is always easier to be objective when we literally are outside looking in. It's much harder for us to be objective inside our own businesses, because there's, especially when we own them, there's so much of us that's personally invested.
And we're protective.
Of course.
Yeah.
And also what we're doing, it's in our comfort zone, isn't it?
Yes.
We know what we're doing. We know that we're good at this. And
just suddenly change back.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it is absolutely terrifying. And we're being able to find people to go on that journey together with and to brainstorm together with, what are the ideas, what else can we do, and how does this work, and would this be something that would be interesting for you? The biggest thing that I faced this year in terms of recreating new products and things is marketing. Marketing is in my absolute and utter terror zone. It's not even just slightly outside of my stretch zone. It is way on another planet, because it's that wording, and how do you find the right wording that actually connects with people? Because I am who I am, and I don't want to try and pretend to be something else. And
but Kathy, do you know what? Sandy and I have learnt that we're really good at what we do.
Yeah.
We're not really good at everything in our business, like marketing. And so you have to bring in the people that do know their stuff, because at the end of the day, it's better for you and for us if somebody else does it for us, because they do it better.
That's exactly right. And that's why I employ a person who does my marketing half-time.
Yeah. and
that reason.
It's necessary, isn't it? I mean, it took us a long time to learn that. We thought, we'll just do it. We can do this. But
and that's
better.
That's part of that DIY of New Zealand, that they start their businesses and they want to do everything, and they're not willing to trust somebody else to do something. Your admin or anything else. How do you make that step to be able to trust?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all part of the new learning that we're all having to do. So
and you look and you think as well that, I can do that, and I'm not flat out right now. It's the financial side of it too, isn't it? When you're building this year, it's like, well, none of us is going to spend any more money than we need to, and yet, of course, that old adage has never been truer, that you need to invest and back yourself to make that. You can't make that step without investing. But that's also, and I think that's also why that tribe is so important, because they will grill you to go, yes, that's a good idea. No, that's not you do need to do that. I think you're 100% right, Kathy. It's trust, but I think it's massively just thinking that whole package. What am I great at? How do I make sure that I focus on the things I'm great at, which means I need people to fill these holes because I'm not great at those things.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you started with after you gave your background, you talked about your passion and your purpose. And I think that is something else, that as people have been having to create all of these new things, I've found that a really useful focus or a lens to be able to put over anything. Does this fit my passion? Does it fit my purpose? And if not, then don't do it. Or, how does it fit that? Because otherwise we dilute our energy, we dilute our focus and all of those sorts of things. So, you know, to be truly grounded in our passions and our purpose is a really helpful lens. But
I think that's true. I think that's true. Because in that saying yes, I'm always hesitant. Like, I think it's so true to say yes. Everything needs to be qualified, right? Because we also have to remember that every time we're saying yes to one thing, we're effectively saying no to something else. So what are the things? I was just speaking to a client before we came on now, and, you know, these guys in transport, they've been completely hammered by, you know, ships not coming from China and all the rest of it. And this guy is just really under the pump. And we said, in order to say yes, we've got to make sure we're saying yes to the right things right now, because you don't have enough time for everything. So let's say yes to this, because otherwise we're saying yes to this, which is not as important. That also requires that white space, doesn't it? You know, that notion of the reinvigorate, have the space to be able to think about, well, hang on, which are the bits that are really important? Because it's really easy for us to go, oh yeah, the important stuff. Yeah, but what exactly is that important stuff? And how do we prioritize that? Because saying all this stuff is important is also much easier than saying, yeah, and those 5 important things, now rank them.
yeah,
That's what we need to do, but that's the hard part is that ranking, not the 5 in the bucket. That's quite easy, but now the rank the 5 in the bucket.
Then actually
in life, in business and in life. Yeah.
when is the time that we're going to do that first thing and the second thing? Anyway, we're coming up to the end of the time, and I thank you so much, Di, for sharing tonight your story and also those special tips that are so important for us as we go through this time at the moment where we are still trying to make things work and trying to create that certainty as we're finding our way forward to our silver medal, gold medal, part of that journey. I love that, the saying yes, and Steve Jobs, you know, and seeing the dots joined when you're looking back, because I think that is very, very true in our lives. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that journey, and thank you, Lynette and Winnie and John as well, for bringing parts of your story in here and helping us to brainstorm together to work that out. We do have another event in a month's time. So again, it is always the second Thursday of the month. Just there it is. So it's the second Thursday of the month, maybe. There it is. So it'll be November the 12th from 5 to 6 p.m. I still haven't got a speaker confirmed for that, but we'll be supporting the same business training program for women in Zambia next month as well. And I will look out for information about the events that will be coming up, because I will be wanting to do a face-to-face as part of that, because I think that it can really help for people to be able to share the learning that they're doing. So we're getting this event coming through, and if we can have an in-person event to be able to share that learning, I think that will be really, really great. So looking forward to being able to share more information. Feel free to book in with me for a 15-minute call if you'd like to. There'll be a link in the email that will come out from this with the recording as well. And really looking forward to continuing this journey in business together. So there we go.